Yiboneh, Yiboneh Hamikdash, Yitzion, Yitzion, Yitzion Temane. Yiboneh, Yiboneh, Yiboneh Hamikdash, Yitzion, Yitzion, Yitzion Temane. Yeshama shir chadash.
Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Welcome home to Torah. A warm welcome home to Torah. We're at the Yiboneh Beit Midrash, which we were guests still at the Eretz Chemda Beit Midrash. And for those who are unfamiliar with what we do here, we use the Yakar as the topic, as the basis for our discussion. We're in Parashat Chaya. But before we begin, we have great news. Baruch Hashem. We finally found a home after 10 years. We are going to have a shul, a Beit Midrash. We'll have chesed projects helping the community. We'll have classrooms, a working kitchen for life cycle events, weekly kiddush on Shabbat, and everything that a center for a community can give. We're here for you. And anybody that has, let's say, the initiative to start a chesed project and would like us to help or to be a home for you, please get in contact with me. If you want to partner with us, it's a great opportunity, to dedicate the Aron Kodesh or the Bima, whatever. We have lots of sfarim. We need bookcases. You can dedicate a bookcase. Anyway, if you're interested in a major dedication, you can contact me directly. Otherwise, and we encourage you to do so, there will be a link below in the description box, and it's also on our website, so you could donate. Okay, so we deal with the fundamentals here. And when I say fundamentals, I mean the fundamentals. There are concepts in Judaism that are passed down from generation to generation from Moses, right? God spoke, transmitted to Moses, Moses transmitted to Joshua, and so on. And so we're dealing with the text. And it's very textually oriented. So you don't have to know Hebrew, although it's good to follow with the original Hebrew sheets. You can find also a link below. We do encourage you to learn Hebrew and to follow along. It's just an encouragement. I think that the English translations are never sufficient. Any English translation is, by nature, an interpretation. And we want to get into the nitty-gritty of what it really is saying. And we're using the Yakar as the basis, as I said. So we're going to be in chapter 24, verse 10. Now, keep in mind, you have to know the text. I'm not going to give so much background. Basically, Eliezer is going as an agent to find a wife for Yitzhak on behalf of Abraham. In other words, Abraham is sending his loyal servant, Eliezer, who happens to be a Canaanite, to his hometown, where he came from, or at least where his family is located, somewhere in Syria, Aram Naharaim. And verse 10 says, and the servant took 10 camels of his master's camels, and he went, and these are going to be the words we're going to focus on, and all the best of his master was in his hand. Those words. And he arose, and he went to Aram Naharaim, to the city of Nachor. Now, the Hebrew is Vayikach ha'eved asar gemalim. So the servant took 10 camels, Megamlei Adonav Vayelech, of the camels of his master, and he went. And these are the words, and I mentioned them in English already, and all the best of his master was in his hand. It says, V'kol tuv Adonav biyado. What does that mean? All the best of his master was in his hand, and the rest of the verse was, Yakar Vayelech, he rose, and he went, El Aram Naharaim El Ir Nachor. Now Rashi says right away, he wrote a gift of deed to Isaac for everything he owned. Does that make sense? Yeah, if he wants to impress the girl or the family, as Rashi says, so they would hasten to send their daughter. So he's looking for, he doesn't know who it is yet, he's going to find a wife for Yitzhak. And I guess what they call, dowry, a gift, there's some kind of, I'm not going to call it pressure, let's call it an enticement. There's some kind of enticement, but it's very odd. The Rashi says, and it's, he's got it from somewhere, that he wrote a gift of deed to Isaac. In other words, Isaac will own everything, and the girl would be impressed that Abraham happened to be the richest man in the area, and he was well known to be wealthy. And of course, he's a family member of this area that he's going to, so they would know that, and that Yitzhak would be the inheritor. So that is simply the verse, as well as Rashi. So the Yakar begins right away. Midolo Peresh b'mikra ma haya biyado. You notice that the verse is very vague. It doesn't tell us exactly what Eliezer had in his hand. You had to see Rashi, that he had some kind of a deed that Isaac would be the inheritor. Or maybe it was already written off while he was still alive, that Isaac was already the owner, as we'll see. But the Yakar says right away, there's nothing explicit in the verse to let us know what it was. Al-Kain, now he has a little bit of a different take than Rashi. He says, Al-Kain karov lishmoa. You know what? It sounds like it's very simple, and it's easy to understand if it's going after the Pashup shot. Well, we do see later on, a few verses later, you'll find that in chapter 24, same chapter, but verse 22, right? It says over there, when the camels concluded drinking, the man took a gold nose ring whose weight was 1/2 shekel, and 2 bracelets to put on her hands whose weight was 10 shekels. So looking back, now we understand what he had in his hand. I mean, if we didn't have Rashi to tell us it was a deed, it was the dowry, it was some kind of, it was jewelry. Okay, that's all very fine, but what the Yakar is about to tell us is that these particular items are a hint to something else. And maybe I'll spoon feed you a little bit, because the question we're with, what was it that he had in his hand? What was the gift? And really the gift had to do with a Torah lifestyle. He was offering this woman who was not a Jewess at the time, right? She was just a family member. We're talking about Rivka. He didn't know it was Rivka at the time, but he was bringing Nezer Zahav, right? This was the gold nose ring. Beka Mishkalo, the weight of 10, we'll see, 10 shekels. Ushnei Tzmidim, and 2 bracelets. Okay, interestingly, there's a Midrash Rabbah that explains right there. You look at number 2 on the source sheet that I gave you. There was a precious stone in it that weighed 1/2 shekel. The 2 bracelets to put on her hands correspond to the 2 tablets, the 10 commandments, whose weight was of 10 shekels. It weighed 10 shekel. Really, what we're saying is that it had 10 commandments on it. So even though the pasuk says that it was the weight of this gold, the gold nose ring, I think it's quite heavy. I wouldn't want to put that in my nose, but that it weighed 10 shekels, and that corresponds to the 10 commandments. Okay, so the 2 bracelets represent the 2 tablets. And by the way, when we're at Mount Sinai and we receive the 2 tablets with 10 commandments, this is like a little bit of a hint to a marriage, because through proxy, Eliezer, when he gives her this gift, they're basically married, even though he's not present, Isaac's not present, and that is the halacha, by the way, that the chassan doesn't have to be present. He can send an agent to marry someone on his behalf. Of course, we're not talking about the consummation of the marriage, we're talking about the halachic entering of the marriage through the receiving of the gifts. By the way, Rashi on that verse, the verse of chapter 24, verse 22, says, what do you mean 1/2 shekel? This alludes to the shekels of Israel that each Jew gave, we're going to say at the time of the truma to give to the building of the Mishkan. 2 bracelets. This is an allusion to the 2 tablets paired together. And it weighed 10 shekel. This is an allusion to the 10 commandments inscribed on them. So, of course, he got it from the Midrash itself. No problem with that. But we're going back to the Yakar, because so far, simply according to the Yakar, Pashup Pshat, the simple explanation would be, looking back after seeing what it says in verse 22, now we understand what it was in verse 10. Perhaps. Except we're going to go further. Lefisha Avram also mehem siman al shkalim. Avraham was actually sending a sign. The ala seres hadibros shebishnei luchos. We're talking about the 10 Commandments. The sign was regarding the 10 Commandments that were on the 2 tablets through the gifts that he gave her. And now, remember it said, the kol tuv adonah biyado, all the best, all the good stuff that his master had given him in his hand, right? So the Yakar explains, what is the word tov? Tov means good. It means good. Well, guess what? According to the Talmud and the explanation of Chazal, Tuv always represents the Torah. And we have verses, right? Kilechach Tov. It's a good purchase that Hashem is giving us. That's the Torah. There's nothing greater. There's nothing better. That's what Tuv means. The best. There's nothing better than the Torah. And that's why it says, Al Kain Karam Kol Tuv Adonav. All the best of his master. And the Yakar says, Kizehu hatoiva amitit. This is the truest good. This is the best good. There's no better than this, the Torah. Like I said, he was offering her a Torah lifestyle. L'chach lo ne'emar. Remember, what could it have said? What should it have said? That it did not say. It would have made sense to say, Kol rechush adonav. All of the property, all the acquisitions, all of the wealth of his master. Wouldn't that have made more sense in the verse? That he took with him the 10 camels and all of the property or all of the rechush means property, the wealth. Nope. Even though the first Rashi we read was that he gave him a deed he gave him a piece of paper that showed it was gifted already to Isaac, which implies wealth. Well, guess what? Now we understand it means Torah, right? A Torah lifestyle, Torah values. And the Yakar ends this paragraph by explaining V'yitba'er kol haramazim mahem bezrat Hashem yisbarach b'samuch, that bezrat Hashem, with the help of God, the Yakar will explain some of these hints as we go along. Okay, that's the first paragraph. The second paragraph we're dealing with is verse 12. Verse 12, even the verse says in English, and he said, O Lord. So Eliezer is having a conversation with God. Some of the things he's speaking to himself, some of the things he's thinking in his mind, but for the practical narrative, at this point in 12, he's speaking to God, and he said, O Lord, the God of my master Abraham, please cause to happen to me today. We're going to focus on those words. What does that mean? Please cause to happen to me today and perform loving kindness with my master Abraham. I mean, look, his mission was to find a wife, so let it happen that I find her. That's true. Look in the Hebrew. V'yomer Hashem Elokei Adoni Avraham. Right? Oh, my Lord, master of God of my master Abraham. Hakrei no. Let it happen. Let it happen lifnei lefanai hayom. Before me today. Those are the words we're going to focus on. What does that mean? And he asked, Osa chesedi modini Avraham, please perform a kindness for my master Abraham. So the Yakar begins by saying, Yeh shomrim, some say, Shalmar, this is what Eliezer was saying. Shiazmin lo Hashem na'ara chashuva. He was praying to Hashem that God should yazmin. It's based on the word to invite or to summon, to allow it to happen, that God would produce a nara chashuva, a woman who would be most fitting, right? A chashuva means important, esteemed, a very, classy lady. Someone who's fit, an esteemed person, but someone who's very important. She'ein darka l'tzeit klal. Now this is not going to be very PC. Okay, so when he says chashuva, a young lady who's of a certain status, who's esteemed, it's not the way of women to go out at all, meaning to walk in the streets and to be known in the streets. No. So how is he going to find a woman who's fitting for Isaac, for Yitzchak, Abraham's son? Someone who's kind of hidden away, modest. So he was praying, please allow, at this moment, when I'm coming into town, I'll find her because she'll go out. Even though she's not the type to go out, how am I going to find her if I don't see her? So he's praying that at the moment that she should be found, that she should go out. Kedei shelo tiyeh min hayatz aniut. In order that she's not to be like the way of those who go out, right? She's a very modest woman. She doesn't go out, but I want to find her. That's why it says, now in verse 16, it calls like this. In verse 16 it says, now the maiden was a very comely appearance, okay? Hanara tovat maremod, she was very pretty. Betula means a virgin. V'ish lo yada'ah, which a man had not known. Now, why do I need those words? A man had not known. Isn't a betula, isn't a virgin a woman who a man had not been intimate with? In other words, why do you need to say a virgin? And so Rashi says there, when it says a virgin, we're talking about a virgin in the front, in the place of her virginity, as opposed to, this is according to Rashi, that no man had been intimate with her, perhaps in an unusual way, not in the normal way. And he adds, since the daughters of Gentiles would preserve their virginity, but were promiscuous in unnatural ways. So basically, this statement is to show you that she was completely innocent. It attests that she was not violated, not from the front, not from the back. But so this is giving testimony that she was not violated. So the Yakar says, "Shelo hayashum adam makira." It's not like Rashi says. I'm saying Rashi says it, but the Yakar has a deeper understanding, as opposed to the Pashut Pshat of Rashi, that she wasn't violated in any way, but that she wasn't even recognizable. She was so modest, so tsanua, that nobody in town, only her own closest family, recognized her because she really didn't go out. Ki'im b'pam zeh, except for this time, because since she didn't go out, but he prayed that she should go out in b'mikra, right, in a circumstance where he would find her. Kein husrach lisho et piha. That's why he's asking that he should find her, that she should appear. And when she does, he asked her directly. He asked her directly in verse 23. And he said, "Whose daughter are you?" Bat mi'at. Now, why would he ask her? He could have asked the other girls, "Hey, who's that girl?" And the Yakar is going to say, even the girls didn't recognize her, meaning the gossip club. Nobody even knew she was. They didn't recognize her, according to the Yakar. V'lama lo shoal lishar na'aros shayu shama. The Yakar asked, why didn't Eliezer ask the other women who were there? Kibli safek lo holcha levado. It seems like no doubt that she really was never outside alone. Ela lefi, since it actually says ish lo yada, a man, it doesn't mean a man as in masculine, it means man as in humankind didn't know her. Lo hikira, the other women did not even know her. Now, it could be, someone asked me the question today, so if that's the case, I mean, it's hard to understand. She probably went to the well many times, right? She was familiar with the well this time. I say not necessarily. Remember, there's a difference of opinion how old she was. And, may seem controversial. There's one opinion that she was 3 years old. Now, that doesn't mean that he had intimate relations with her. He actually waited 10 years till he had relations with her. So she was already 12, 13, maybe even 14. There is an opinion that she was 14, which would be hard to justify how she was never at the well. It would be more easy to understand how she was never at the well if she was only 3 years old, because that could have been the first time. And we're going to see she was such a chesed, she was such a kind and generous person, and she would do acts of kindness that this would be like maybe, let's say, the first time outside the house doing such an act. Now we're in verse 14. And 14, we're going to spend a lot of time on this verse. And the verse in English says, chapter 24, verse 14. And it will be that the maiden to whom I will say, so this is Eliezer speaking to himself. And it will be that the maiden to whom I will say, lower your pitcher and I will drink. And her response will be, she will respond to me by saying, you drink, and I will also water your camels. Have her, you, that's Hashem, designated for your servant Isaac, meaning you, God's servant for Isaac. And through her may I know that you have performed loving kindness with my master. Now in the Hebrew, I just want to focus on that latter part where we say, right, Hatina kadech, right, lean over, pour over your pitcher, and I will drink, if that's what she says to me. That's what I'm assuming, right? She'll say that to me. And then she'll say, shtei, drink, the gam gimalecho ashke, and also your camels I will provide drink. And then the latter part, through her may I know that you have performed, right? This loving kindness for my master by designating her for Isaac. Ota, her, hokachta, you have designated, lo avdecha, for your servant, liyitzchak, for Yitzchak. Okay, there's a lot here to unwrap. Simply put, Rashi says, this idea that you have designated, ota, hokachta, you have designated, you know that he would know she's worthy of him, for she will perform acts of kindness, as she is fit to enter the house of Abraham. Remember, Abraham is an ish chesed. Okay, so the main, and I'm giving it away here, but the main character trait that he is looking for through all the different tests is she worthy of being Isaac's wife, of being Abraham's daughter-in-law, through the act of chesed? Is she concerned about others? Okay, and the word, as we said, hokachta, means that you choose. Okay. Another Rashi I want to see over there on this verse 14, that you have performed loving kindness, meaning Hashem. If she will be from his family and fit for him, I will know that you, Hashem, performed loving kindness by putting a perfect match together for this family. She's got all the ingredients to enter into the covenant and into under the wings of the Shekhinah as a righteous convert. Okay? So here we have Rashi says, we're back in the Yakar, Ruya Hilo, that she would be fitting for Isaac, for him. Why? Shetehei gomelet chasadim, because of this character trait, that she's very charitable. Now, we're going to do some contrast. The Yakar says, take a look back at Genesis chapter 23, verse 1 through 20. You'll see, Semach Parsha Zula Parshas Ephron Hachiti. We had the sale of Maras Machpelah of Chevron, right, Kiryat Arba, for a burial place for Sarah. Abraham was involved in this sale with Ephron the Hittite, and he was a Canaanite. Okay, how do we know that he was a Canaanite? If you look in chapter 10, verse 15, you'll see it number 8 on the source sheet. Canaan begot Sidon, that was his firstborn, as well as Chet, that would be Chet. The Hittites come from Canaan, so they're Canaanites. And remember, Avram did not want a Canaanite wife for his son Yitzchak. Okay, but what's wrong with the Canaanites that he did not want them to marry him? Okay, in other words, is this a racist issue? No. They are the opposite of his family. His family is Gomel Chesed. His family is somebody, even if they were idol worshippers, which they probably were over there in Aram Naharaim. He was looking for somebody who had the good character traits of Chesed. Ki gam hu haya mizera Canaan. So the Ephron who he's dealing with, we'll see, had a very bad character trait. Remember, when he was selling him the Maras Machpelah, he was really greedy. He wanted a lot of money. Okay, and this is what the Canaanites, he says, from Zerah Canaan, from the seed of Canaan. And we saw the verse 10, chapter 15. And the description of Ephron is Haya Ra'ayin. Now keep in mind with the word Ra'ayin. If you would translate it literally, you would think he has an evil eye. Right? An eye that is evil. We're going to translate it as stinginess. The opposite of an ayin yafeh. The opposite of a generous person. He was the opposite. He was tight. He was stingy. He was greedy. We're going to call him greedy. And you can find this in Breshit Rabbah 58:7. That's number 9 on the source sheet. Gives us all the different verses during that sale that he basically was trying to milk Avram for much more because of the type of currency. If you turn to page 3 on the English source sheet, towards the bottom of that number 9, there's a verse in Proverbs 28:22. It says about a greedy man rushes after wealth. He does not know that diminishment will befall him. So in Hebrew, it's in the last part that I read, Nivahalahon ish ra'ayin. See the word ra'ayin, a greedy man. So we know what a greedy man is. Ephraim was a greedy person, as this Medrash continues on to say. It's in Parashat Rabbi 58:7. And this refers to Ephraim, who cast a greedy eye upon the wealth of this righteous man Abraham. And what about the latter part of the verse, right? And he does not know that diminishment will befall him. Lo yoda ki chaser yavieru. And as the Torah diminished the letter, so in Ephraim is said many times in that chapter 23 during that negotiation, but there's one particular verse where we see that the word Ephraim is spelled without a vav. So I want to show you this verse, and I want to show you the commentary in the Art Scroll on chapter 23, verse 16. So the Art Scroll explains, right, the word Ephraim is spelled without a vav. All the other time, Ephraim is with a vav. So the Art Scroll says, throughout the chapter, Ephraim's name is spelled with a vav. But here, where money changed hands and the sale was consummated, the vav is omitted. Thereby, the Torah implies that his stature was diminished. He started out by making grandiose offers of a gift, right? Oh yeah, I'm going to give it to you for free even. A gift. But then revealed himself as a greedy man who extorted more than the property was even worth. For in the end, he demanded from Avram what we call large shekels. There's different types of shekels, and he asked from the highest level for merchants. Okay, and today, let me just say what he says. As the Talmud in Bava Metzia 87a explains, each shekel that Avram used to pay for the plot was worth 2,500 ordinary shekels. Thus, Avram paid a total of 1 million ordinary shekels for the cave. Now, this illustrates Avram's love for Sarah and the importance of this burial site. Okay, let's continue with the Yakar. We're in the fourth line down in that paragraph. Al kain tziva laharchik haknanim. This is exactly why he did not want his son to be married to the Canaanites, because of this bale ayin hara, because of this attribute that they held on to, which was greediness, a love for money. Ki hakesef ya'ane v'ya'id al hakol. You know what kesef does? You know what money does? Money is a revelation and a testimonial on who you are and everything about you. You can tell so much about a person. And how's that? I'll say it outside first of all. The words of Chazal is, you can recognize a person. You can know a person because we say, kos, kis, kas. The same letters, with a little bit of a different vowelization. Kos means a cup. We see what they do when they drink. When people drink, right, as they say, the wine goes in and the secrets come out. In fact, that's the same gematria, wine and secrets, yayin v'sod. And so the wine goes in, the secrets come out. So you can tell a person, do they get angry or do they get all kinds of lovey-dovey, right? Are they well behaved or not? So that's kos. What about kis? Kis means a pocket. It means like a purse, like money. So you can tell what they spend their money on. What do they get upset in a business deal? Is it over the money or is it over certain principles? So that's the number 2. That's kos, kis, and what's kas? Kas means anger. Now, anger is something one should stay far away from, but there are times it's permissible to show, not to be, but to somehow show what really you're concerned about, perhaps in a forceful way, we'll call anger. And so what do they get angry about? And how do they handle their anger? Are they well controlled? They're just showing a certain force. Or are they angry and out of control, and God forbid, even over petty things? So he says here, Kol Adam Nikar Bekiso Imzach V'Yasher Pa'alo, that every person is recognizable through his purse, kiso, if he is pure or upright in his actions. Ve'en lecha mitzaref v'kor. Now these two words are a little bit hard to translate, but Baruch Hashem, we have a verse in Proverbs. It's actually 27, verse 21. Do we have it right here? Yeah, number 10 on the source sheet. So the word matzreif is something very hot. We're going to call it a furnace. And a core is like a melting pot of some sort. So it says in, let me just finish the first sentence. Ein lecha matzreif a core. You don't have either a crucible or a furnace. Habachina ala adam, in order to test somebody. These things like heat you up. They're very, let's say, testy, right? Regarding a person, if it's the only thing that really you can test a person on is money or gold, silver and gold. Through silver and gold, that you can put them to the litmus test. See, King Solomon said in Proverbs 27:21, he says the refining pot is for silver and the furnace for gold, and a man according to his praise. So you can tell a person, matzreif lekesef, in other words, to test them through the heat of silver, the kor lezahav, and another type of heat in a test towards gold. Ki haroitze litzaref ha'adam ulevchano. So in other words, in order to put someone to the test, yelech el kesef, follow the money. I've heard that before. Follow the money. The yira matibo, see what his behavior is. It good or not? V'chein haroa kor. V'chein harotze kor lahavchin bo adam. And similarly, using the word kor, same thing as this. Perhaps this pot, this furnace, to test a person. Yelech lezahav. You follow the gold. The yire echa adam mitna hegbo, and see how the person behaves. Ki'im ya'amod bitzidkato be'esik mamon, and if the person stands in his righteousness, he doesn't become corrupt, he doesn't become a thief, he doesn't become angry. He's standing in his righteousness, he's maintaining his righteous behavior in a business deal or dealing with money. Bekol shuya yidgale ki shalemhu. So all of his resources, whatever he's acting on, will reveal if he's virtuous or not. Right? V'chein lehefech, or not. Now, umikan lamad Eliezer. Eliezer learned from this. Shelo badak et Rivka ki'im b'midazu. This was his whole test, to find out if she has this character trait or not. Im yesh la ayin toiva, if she has a good eye. Again, it doesn't mean a good eye, it means generous. Right? Let's say, for example, you're cutting the bread on Friday night meal, and you cut these thin little pieces and give out little crumbs to everybody. That means you're greedy. And if you give out a nice sized piece that can fill the person, that's called a generous eye. It's called ayin tova, being gracious and generous. And gomelet chasadim, and she's very charitable. This is what he wanted to know. Is she generous and charitable? L'chach amar, therefore he said, and he's basically saying to himself, the only thing I'm really asking from her, or claiming from her, is that she should just provide me something to drink. That's it, just me. But if she responds back to me, Shateh, you go, you drink. V'gam gemalecha ashkeh, and also your camels. So her response was greater than what he asked for. He said, I'm going to ask her just to give me something to drink. And if she responds, I'm not only going to give you, I'm also going to provide water for your camels. What does that show? As bivadai balat gemilas chasadim. There she certainly owns this character trait. She's certainly a charitable person. Shetiten liyoter mima shani shoel. This is what the Yakar is saying, that Eliezer is basically saying, you know what? The truth is, she's going to give me much more than what I asked her for, right? I only asked her to give me, and if she's going to offer to also water my camels. Im came ata, this is his response, that you were chosen for your servant, for Yitzchak. Ota chochakta la'avdecha liYitzchak. Ki kol beisa, because his whole house, Isaac, Sarah, Abraham, the whole household was levush bigdei yesh and livriot. They were enclosed encloaked with the clothing of providing for others. That was their whole makeup, so to speak. That was the essence of the family, and she would be certainly fitting for that. Okay, let's go on. The ad sad haremez. Now, from the aspect of a hint, there's an allusion, because we saw the words camels. Eliezer took with him camels, and this is what she's doing. She's going to feed the camels. The camels seem to play a major part in this narrative that's going on. And the Yakar is explaining, Gemalecha, the very fact that it says your camels, back originally in verse 14, Lashon Gemilus Chesed Karov LeLashon Gemalecha. Right? When we talk about the word Gomel Chesed means bestowing kindness. Gomel means to bestow. There's a gift. There's some kind of kindness that's going on. I just want to go back to the actual root of the word. In today's Hebrew, for pensioners, it is called Kupat Gimel. That's like the pension, but that is the age of pension or retirement. So we have to figure out what the connection. What's the connection between pension and another? When a child is breastfeeding and then they're weaned off the mother, the weaning off the mother is also from the same root of gamal, and also someone who might be addicted to something, when they go cold turkey, or if they're using some kind of assistance to wean themselves off the drug, that's also called gamel. Okay, but it's bestowing of some sort. So the Yakar wants us to see in Vayikra Rabbah, in Yud Gimel Daled, but also it's the pasuk. We know that a camel is not kosher. It's not kosher. And I mentioned it's Leviticus 11:4. It just mentions about the camel not being kosher. The verse describes that. That's number 12 on the source sheet. But we have a midrash that tells us that each one of the different non-kosher animals that are listed represents different nations. So just focus on the camel that represents Babylon. Now, Babylon was very kind, just like America has been very kind to the Jews, but Babylon eventually was destroyed. And the pasuk in Psalms 137, verse 8, O daughter of Babylon, who are to be destroyed, fortunate is the one who repays you. The word repaying you with recompense. And the Hebrew, do I have it? Yes, number 13. The idea of paying you, gemulech shigmal tilanu. So this idea of repaying a recompense is also gamal. And that could be why Babylon is symbolized by the camel. I mean, it is. And it has to do with payment. Let's say payment, okay? Going back into the Yakar, he also described, one second, I skipped something. So we quoted the verse. Rotzav is that. What is the idea behind this that wants to be expressed? Meaning Eliezer is saying, Im hi tosif lomar. Now, I'm asking her for water for myself. If she then adds and says, also your camels I will cause to drink, right? I will provide water. Simana miltehi. This is very significant. Shekol kach hi ohevet midas hagamilas chesed. Because she loved this idea of, payment, of doing chesed, of helping others so much. Ad asher hi ohevet kol hanikra b'shem midazu. Until she just loved anything that was even called, which is the camel. She loved the camels because the name of the camel represents Gamal, Gomel, bestowing, and therefore Zed Davar Tvi'i. This something comes very natural for her. And Chazal tell us also, similarly, there is a bird called a stork that's also not kosher. It's listed in Leviticus 11:19. Okay, so they're called Chasidah. That's what it's called, the Chasidah bird. The word is Chasid, which is kindness. Shoisech Chasidus im Chavruteha. Rashi says it here, and there's other places. Look in number 14. It says, Leviticus 11:19, the stork. Rashi says, Es a chasida, regarding the stork. Why is it called chasida? Because it does kindness, chasidut, with its fellow birds by sharing its food. And the Yakar says it could be the camels act in a certain way as well, certain kindness naturally. He says, Al kain ein rachok lefaresh gam milat gamal. I'm telling you what the Yakar says. It's not that far to try to explain the very word camel, gamal, ki ulai tivo ligmo chesed ze lezeh. I have no idea. You have to ask a camel. Maybe we'll look it up on Wikipedia another time, but I think it's probably better to ask a camel driver if the camels, I saw where camels defend each other against attackers. Anyway, Kain toisif behem ahava bi amra. So therefore, what did she do? She extended her kindness also to the camels. It says, Gam gemalecha ashkeh. Even the camels I'm going to bring water to. Ki kol zes siman shehu ohevet midas gemilus chesed. It shows you in the text how much she loved this character trait of doing chesed. Okay, Chazal also teach us in Gemara Tainus 24a. Now this is a little bit strange. It says, Kol kala she'eneha yafot. Any bride, any fiancé, any girl that you're looking to marry, right, whose eyes are really nice, Kol gufa ein tzarich bedika. The rest of her body, it's not necessary to check out. Now, that's very strange. What do the eyes tell you? So when I was looking for a wife, I asked my rabbi, what should I be looking for in a wife? Obviously, we're talking about chesed, the character trait, but in terms of, I was wanted to know about the beauty part, and he told me that if you could see yourself looking into her eyes, he said, if you can see yourself looking into her eyes in 60 years, and they're still attractive to you, that's all you're going to have left of her anyway in terms of her beauty. So it's all in the eyes. The eyes are, as I think they say, the window of the soul. It's a soul connection. And over here, the Yakar says, he's quoting from the Gemara, that any bride, any kala, her eyes are beautiful, or soon to be bride. The rest of the body you don't need to check out. Zed davar hachush machish. He's very upset with this idea. Now, it's true, it's written in the Talmud, and it's a fact. Question is, what does it mean? It might not mean everything we just said. He says this is confusing, this is contradictory from all that we know. Ki kama mucharot ba'olam she'eineihem yafos. There are many homely, ugly women, maybe men too, in this world who have beautiful eyes, but the rest of them, the rest of their body, is not so nice. Maybe even, I don't know, he's not talking about character traits, talking about the body. And that's one big question, because we're not into the body, as he's about to say. V'od kasha ma ro'u chasal al kaka. How did the rabbis even say such a thing? Litain eitza livdok acher yofi hachitzoni zeh. Why would the rabbis ever make a suggestion, some kind of counsel, some kind of advice to check after such external beauty? It doesn't make any sense. And right away he says, hello. Hello means, is it not? Don't we have a verse in Proverbs chapter 31:30, which we sing every Friday night? Right? Sheker achein vehevel ayofi. Right? That charm is false and beauty is futile. And as Rashi says here, no one praises a woman for charm or beauty. Everything else, it's all futile and false. The only thing that really matters is a God-fearing woman. Alone, she is praised. So the Yakar is going to tell us this idea now. Right after the verse. There's no question, absolutely. The idea the rabbis are saying, look after her eyes, is look after her actions. That they place this advice, which is to check after her actions. Is she into Torah and mitzvahs? Zos ha'etza ha'yutza. That's the advice that was given. She yivdok im hi balat ayin yofeh. See, check it out. If she's generous, gomelet chasidim. If she is full of kindness. Ki'im eineha yafot bibriut. If she's generous with other people, with other creatures, as he blisafek shlema b'kol midos. That's the only character trait you need to know, because all the other good character traits are built upon this. If she's a giving person, if she's a generous person, there's no doubt that all the other character traits are going to fall into place. And Chazal learned this from Eliezer. Shlo badak et Rivka ki'im b'midazu. This was the only character trait he was looking for Isaac to marry into the family at that time. Kimidazu binyan av al kol hamidos. Binyan av, it's the foundation, it's the structural foundation for all the other good character traits. Ubiderek pshuta nira. Now, from a very simple understanding, it would seem Shalachach lo Eliezer siman zeloma, that he took these signs to be basically coming to this idea. Ani lo eshami mena ki'im. The only thing I really asked of her was, please pour a little bit of water for me, right? Hitina kadech ve'eshteh. Just pour me a little bit of water and I'll drink. That's all he asked. V'lo eskarla hagamalim, v'lo va'ke shalem. He never asked her to water, or to give his camels to drink. He never asked her anything about the camels, find shelter for them. None of that. He didn't request anything about the camels. Im hi tashiv v'amratum. But remember, he said to himself, if she would answer and come back and say, you drink, and I'll also give your camels to drink, which she did, shtei v'gam gamalecha eshka, tiyeh chesed chasa al gamalim yoter mimeni. That, what is this a sign? This is a sign that she has more compassion and more pity for these camels than I have for them. Not that she has more pity for them than me. That's not what it says. That she has more compassion for the animals than I have for those animals. Vadai ruach elokim dibar ba. Then certainly ruach hakodesh, some kind of spirit of God, spoke to her and she understood. The shagamalim yushalah, that these camels will be hers. How does she know? When she marries Yitzhak. Now we go back to that Rashi. There was already a deed. These camels don't belong to Avram. He took them from Avram, but he took the deed. And he showed, right, the deed says that they belong to Yitzhak. But she didn't know that. But if she marries Yitzhak, they're going to be hers as well. And so she was taking care of them. In other words, he recognized that she was giving more concern for these camels than he was giving. And the reason is because they were going to belong to her. Al kain hi chasa al gemalim yosim mimeni, and he recognized that she had more pity or concern for the camels than he did. Ki einam shali, v'lesof yeshalah. First of all, they weren't mine. In the end, they're going to belong to her. V'chasa lehem ki yu mimona, and therefore she had pity on them because eventually they would be her own property. So we didn't see that in the text, right? All this is coming out from reading the Hebrew, understanding the Yakar, thinking critically, and there's a lot of lessons. Number one, always remember, the Torah is an instruction manual for life, right? It gives us meaning in every aspect of our life, in our business dealings, in our relationships, in our home, and with our loved ones, people walking down the street. Whatever it is, the Torah is the instruction manual for life. It's divine information, and I'm not going to say you'll never get it. It would take a long time. Like Abraham, it took him a long time to figure it out on his own. But he was very unique and very special. Are we on that level? So Baruch Hashem, God gave us the Torah. So that's the, I'm going to say it's the quick and easy way to get to the truth, right? It's all laid out there for you. And there's only depth and meaning. And this, Bezrat Hashem, every class that we have here should bring depth and meaning to your life, and we should all become, right, more chesidic. Listen, Olam Chesed Yiboneh, the word Yiboneh, the world was built on kindness. That's a pasuk. The world was built on kindness. So going back to what I said in the beginning, we are opening, it's like a clubhouse. It's for the community, where the whole community will benefit. We're going to have chesed projects there. We're going to have learning Torah. We're going to have a shul. We're going to have all kinds of activities that any community center should have. And Baruch Hashem is coming together with your help. So Please, we appreciate whatever you do, and we thank you already in advance. And if you're interested in a large donation, a large gift, a partnership that has a little bit more meaning, could be an Aron Kodesh, could be a Bima. We already have the Sefer Torah, but this is where we're at. So now it's time to put into practice what we preach. Okay, so I want everyone to have a great Shabbos, Chaya Sarah. Many, many years, many times I've been to Hebron, but this year we're not going. But it's a big Shabbos in Hebron. Usually 30,000 people show up. Could be that a little bit less because of the war. I want to just take a moment really to pray for our Chayalim. They should be successful. Am Yisrael should be victorious. We know that Am Yisrael is eternal. And the question is, are we going to be part of that eternal program? So that's your choice. And with that, I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. Next week will be Chodesh Tov. But have a great life, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yitzion